The door to the medical office burst open with a force that sent it slamming against the wall, and every person in the waiting room jumped in their seats. A woman in a deep blue military uniform stormed through the entrance like a controlled detonation, her eyes blazing with the specific fury of someone who has rehearsed this confrontation many times in her head. She slammed the lock home behind her with a decisive click. "You." Maya Rodriguez leveled a finger directly at the man in the white coat, who very nearly dropped the stethoscope hanging around his neck. "You're going to explain to me, right now, exactly why you left my sister Sophia standing at the altar like the spineless excuse for a man you are." Dr. David Chun, 30 years old and entirely unprepared for this particular Tuesday, blinked rapidly, trying to assemble the situation into something that made sense. His glasses slid down his nose. I'm sorry, but I believe there's been a serious mistake." "A mistake?" Maya advanced like something predatory, forcing him backward until his spine met the edge of the exam table. "Sophia cried for 3 straight days. 3 days, you coward. She spent every dollar she'd saved on a wedding dress, and you just vanished." David raised both hands, palms out, his voice climbing an octave he wasn't proud of. "Ma'am, please. I swear to you, I don't know anyone named Sophia. There has to be some confusion here." "Confusion?" Maya produced her phone with the practiced speed of someone who has drilled this motion. "This is you, Diego Chun. Don't even attempt to deny it." She thrust the screen toward his face. He stared at the photograph with eyes that had gone genuinely wide. The resemblance was uncanny. Same bone structure, same eye shape, the same height, the same general architecture of face. But it was with absolute certainty not him. I promise you, that isn't me," David stammered, his pulse hammering against his collar. "My name is David Chun. I'm a physician here at Boston General. I have never in my life left anyone standing at an altar." Maya studied his face with the assessing precision of someone trained to read people under pressure. She registered the genuine fear in his expression. Her anger, however, had built too much momentum to be derailed by something as inconvenient as evidence. "Of course you'd say that. That's exactly the kind of thing men like you say." She positioned herself fully between David and the door. "You think you can toy with people's hearts and just walk away clean?" "Please." David attempted a step toward the exit. Maya blocked it with the immovability of a person who has spent years being told to hold a position and never break it. "If we could possibly discuss this another time." "No." Her arms crossed, the muscle definition beneath her uniform sleeves entirely unsubtle. "You're not leaving this room until I get a real explanation." Sweat had begun tracking down David's forehead. Confrontation had never been a skill of his, and confrontation with an armed and trained-looking woman who appeared genuinely capable of violence ranked considerably lower on his list of comfortable experiences. Every instinct he possessed was urging him to fold into himself and disappear. "Listen," he said, attempting an authority his voice wasn't fully cooperating with. "I genuinely do not know your sister. If you could just show me. Show you more pictures?" Maya let out a laugh with no warmth in it whatsoever. "You need more proof of your own face? What kind of person are you?" The fire in her eyes told David everything he needed to know about her. That she gave orders for a living, that she was accustomed to being obeyed, that this uniform was not decorative. "Look, Captain," he said, reading the insignia. "Rodriguez, is it?" "I understand your anger." "I do. But I will swear on my medical license that I have never once seen your sister." "Medical license?" Maya's voice dripped contempt. "Men like you lie about everything, including your job title. I'd bet money you're not even a real doctor." That particular accusation landed somewhere unexpected. David had spent years earning that degree. Sleepless nights, sacrificed weekends, an entire social life surrendered to the cause of helping people who needed it. For one moment, the timidity that usually governed him receded. "I am a doctor," he said, and something in his tone had changed entirely. "Harvard-trained, specialized in cardiac surgery. I have worked at this hospital for 5 years." Maya registered the shift, but had built too much certainty around her position to dismantle it on the strength of a changed tone alone. Outside the locked door, concerned voices were beginning to accumulate. "Dr. Chun, is everything all right in there?" a nurse called through the wood. David drew a long breath, gathering whatever remained of his nerve, and produced a whisper barely audible even in the quiet room. "You don't understand. I have a twin brother, Diego Chun." The silence that followed had a physical weight to it. Maya could hear her own pulse in her ears. "A twin brother," she repeated slowly, as though testing the shape of the words in her mouth. David nodded, pushing his glasses back into place with a faintly trembling hand. "Diego is my twin. We were born 3 minutes apart. He and I are very different people." The first thread of doubt began working its way through Maya's certainty. She looked at him properly now, the genuine confusion etched across his face, the defensive posture, the small tremor in his hands. None of it matched the description Sophia had given of a confident, charming man who knew exactly how to disarm a room. Her phone rang with a sharp, insistent tone. The screen read Sophia. She hesitated for a single beat before answering, the worry for her sister overriding everything else. "Sophia? What's wrong?" Her sister's voice on the other end was bright with excitement, and it ran through Maya like ice water. "Maya, you won't believe this. Diego showed up. He was on a work trip in Mexico. His phone broke. He explained everything. We're setting a new wedding date." Maya felt the blood leave her face. Her eyes found David, who was watching her expression travel from rage through something far worse. "Sophia, where are you right now?" "At his apartment." "Maya, I knew there had to be an explanation. He brought me the most beautiful gifts from Mexico, and—" Maya ended the call with hands that had started to shake. The silence that returned to the office was no longer the silence of confrontation. It was the silence of catastrophic error. "Your sister found my brother?" David asked, with a gentleness that Maya hadn't earned and that landed harder for its undeservedness. She couldn't locate any words. Every ounce of her military discipline, every piece of her certainty, had collapsed in the space of a single phone call. She, who had built her entire identity around precision and control, had just assaulted an innocent man's afternoon and his reputation along with it. She started and stopped because there was nowhere for the sentence to go. Then something shifted in David that Maya hadn't anticipated. The timidity that had defined him for the past 15 minutes seemed to dissolve, replaced by a calm she hadn't seen coming. He straightened to his full height, removed his glasses, and began cleaning them with slow, deliberate movements. When he spoke again, his voice carried an authority that made Maya take an involuntary step back. "Since we're clearing up misunderstandings," he said, "perhaps it's time I cleared up a few things about myself as well." He crossed to his desk, opened a drawer, and produced a business card in heavy gold stock. He extended it to her without ceremony. "My name is Dr. David Chun. Yes, I train at Harvard. What you don't know is that I also own this institution." Maya took the card with hesitant fingers and read it aloud. "David Chun, President and CEO, Chun Medical Group." She looked up at him, confused. "Chun Medical Group? Isn't that the largest private hospital network on the East Coast?" David finished. 43 hospitals, 27 specialty clinics, and, yes, a few $1 billion in assets. Maya's knees lost some of their structural integrity. She had attacked, humiliated, and physically detained a billionaire. But you're wearing an old lab coat. You work like an ordinary physician. I watch you treat patients. David's smile, when it arrived, carried something sad underneath it. "Because this is what I love. My family built this empire, but I never wanted to manage it from a boardroom. I want to save lives, not balance spreadsheets." He moved to the window, looking down at the street. "I practice here under a partially concealed identity. My staff knows who I am, but we maintain the fiction that I'm simply another doctor. It's the only way I get to know whether people value me for who I am rather than what I own." Maya felt herself shrink further. She hadn't simply attacked an innocent stranger. She had attacked a man who spent his fortune and his time saving other people's lives. "Why are you telling me all of this?" she asked, genuinely curious now. David turned to face her, and Maya saw something in his expression she couldn't immediately name. Because you defended your sister with a conviction I admire. Because you didn't hesitate to confront someone you believed had wronged your family. And because he paused. Because it's been a very long time since anyone treated me like an ordinary person. David's phone rang, cutting through whatever was about to follow. He glanced at the screen and visibly lost color. "My mother," he whispered, as though announcing an approaching natural disaster. Maya watched the transformation occur in real time. The confident, newly revealed magnate folding back into the quiet, nervous physician she'd first encountered. "Hi, Mom," he said into the phone. Even without hearing the other side of the conversation, Maya could sense the force of the woman's energy through David's reaction alone. "Yes, Mom, I remember. No, I didn't forget. Of course I'll be in the office tomorrow." He hung up and turned to Maya with genuine panic stamped across his features. "My mother is visiting tomorrow. She believes I only work in the administrative offices. If she finds out I spend my days treating patients." "What happens?" Maya asked, her curiosity overriding her embarrassment. "She'll end me," David said, with a seriousness that made clear he was not exaggerating for effect. "She thinks manual labor, even medical labor, is beneath a chun." Maya looked at the man standing across from her, a billionaire, a brilliant surgeon, utterly terrified of his own mother, and despite everything that had just occurred, found herself smiling. "Well, Dr. Chun," she said, "looks like we both have a problem now." Maya didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw David's bewildered face in the moment she'd stormed his office like a small hurricane. The guilt sat heavy in her stomach. She arrived at the hospital the next morning carrying coffee and a sandwich, the universal currency of apology, and found David walking out of surgery, exhausted but satisfied. "Dr. Chun," she called, hesitant. He turned, and when he saw her, his expression closed off, not with anger, but with a guardedness that hurt more than yelling would have. "Captain Rodriguez," he said, formal, "I brought coffee, and I wanted to apologize. Genuinely." She extended the cup like an offering. He accepted the coffee, but his reserve remained firmly in place. "Thank you. No need for guilt. Mistakes happen." The politeness stung more than she'd anticipated. She'd faced down angry generals with more confidence than she felt standing in this hallway. "Can I ask you something?" she said, deciding directness was the only mode she knew how to operate in. "Why do you work here when you have that much money? Aren't you basically just playing at being a doctor?" The words landed harsher than she'd intended, and she watched David's posture stiffen. "Playing," he repeated, his voice quiet but edged. "I just spent 6 hours operating on a 12-year-old who was struck by a car. I saved his life. Does that sound like a game to you?" Heat rose in Maya's cheeks. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean? That because I have money, I'm incapable of having a calling? That inheriting a fortune disqualifies me from wanting to help people?" Maya found herself, unusually, caught without a ready response. "And I don't understand," David shot back, "how someone so afraid of being vulnerable feels entitled to judge my choices." The word struck something. "I'm not afraid of anything." "No." He crossed his arms. "Then why do you attack first and ask questions later? Why do you prefer toughness to admitting when you're wrong?" The air between them had become charged in a way that had nothing to do with anger anymore. They were standing close, close enough that Maya could see the faint surgical scars along his hands, evidence of years spent operating. She could feel the warmth radiating from him, see the determination in his eyes she had badly underestimated. For one extended moment, something electric passed between them. His gaze dropped briefly to her mouth, and Maya's heart began performing an entirely different kind of pounding. He leaned in slightly. "Dr. Chun." A nurse's voice cut through the moment like cold water. "Your mother just arrived." The panic returned to David's face instantly. He went pale and started peeling off his lab coat in a flurry of motion. "Where is she?" "Main reception. Said it's a surprise visit to her son's office." The nurse delivered this with a barely contained grin. David turned to Maya, desperate. Would you possibly?" "What?" Maya asked, still recovering from whatever had nearly happened between them. Pretend to be my secretary? Just for a few minutes, until I can get her out of here. Maya raised an eyebrow. You want me to lie to your mother? Please. The vulnerability in his voice dissolved any resistance she'd been preparing. Minutes later, Maya was stationed behind a borrowed desk, attempting to project professionalism, as an immaculately groomed woman scanned the office with the eyes of someone who missed nothing. Mrs. Chun, Maya said, deploying her best manufactured smile, what a pleasure to meet you. David's mother examined her with the careful attention of a woman whose small stature did nothing to diminish her presence. Her clothing was expensive and her jewelry understated, but her eyes had the precision of blades. You must be new, Mrs. Chin said, in a tone that wasn't quite a question. I don't recall you from any company meetings. Yes, ma'am. Recently started, Maya lied, hoping the gaps in her secretarial knowledge weren't too visible. Where's my son? David should be in his office at this hour. He's in an important meeting. With investors. Mrs. Chun nodded, satisfied. Good. I hope you're focused on business and not wasting his time with distractions. David entered at that exact moment, transformed entirely by a perfectly tailored suit. Maya barely recognized him. The shy doctor in his white coat had been replaced by someone with an entirely different bearing. Mom, he said, kissing her cheek. What a wonderful surprise. David, dear, we need to discuss your future at the company. And about that lovely young woman I'd like you to meet, the Morrison girl. Maya watched David swallow hard, his smile remaining fixed in place. Of course, Mom. Let's go to my office. As they walked off, Maya caught the trailing fragment of Mrs. Chen's voice. It's time you took on your real responsibilities, David. Marry into a respectable family. Focus on the business. Enough of this phase of wanting to save the world. You have an empire to run. A strange ache settled in Maya's chest. She had judged David for concealing his wealth, but now she understood the weight he carried, the pressure of a family that had never made room for what he actually wanted. Her phone rang. Sophia. Maya, I need to tell you something about Diego. Her sister's voice carried a different quality now. Worried. A chill moved through Maya's stomach. What happened? I'm pregnant, Maya. And Diego. He disappeared again when I told him. Maya closed her eyes and felt the familiar anger surge back. But this time, it had a different target entirely. Her own twin brother had finally earned the fury that had been wasted the day before on the wrong man. Where are you? She asked, already on her feet. Home. Maya, I don't know what to do. He said he needed to think and left, exactly like the first time. Maya looked toward the door David and his mother had disappeared through. Two men, opposite sides of the same coin. One had taken on too much responsibility. The other ran from all of it. Maya ran through the streets of Boston with an urgency she hadn't felt even during her hardest military training. Sophia was pregnant and alone, and Maya felt the weight of having failed to protect her properly. She found her sister curled on the couch, eyes red from crying, and the sight broke something inside Maya's chest. Hey, sweetheart, she said, settling beside Sophia and pulling her into an embrace. Tell me everything. Sophia sobbed against her shoulder. I told him last night, over dinner. I was so happy, I thought he'd be thrilled. She paused to breathe, but when I mentioned the baby, his entire face changed. He said he wasn't ready, that he needed time, and he walked out. He hasn't come back. The anger rose in Maya again, but she forced herself to hold steady for her sister's sake. How far along are you? 2 months. I've known for a few weeks. I wanted to be sure before I told him. Maya took her sister's hands. Sophia, you're not alone. I'm here, and I always will be. But Maya, what if he doesn't come back? What if I have to raise this baby on my own? I haven't even finished college. Before Maya could answer, her phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Hello. Maya, it's David. David Chun. His voice was tense, almost a whisper. David? How did you get my number? From a nurse. Listen, I need help. My mother's been at the hospital 2 hours, and she's starting to ask questions about why she can't find me in the executive office. Maya felt the familiar twinge. My father. Well, he'd wanted a son. I had to prove I was just as capable as any of the men. Mrs. Chen's nod carried real recognition. I understand completely. I fought to be respected in the business world as well. It's difficult for women, isn't it? For one unexpected moment, Maya glimpsed past the intimidating exterior and saw a woman who had fought her own battles decades earlier in a world that hadn't wanted her there either. David walked back in, still dressed as an executive. Maya noted the stiffness that overtook him in his mother's presence. Less natural, more rigid. "Mom, how's the visit going?" "Very well, dear. Your secretary is lovely. A military pilot, can you imagine?" David looked at Maya, surprised. She gave a subtle shrug. "David," Mrs. Chun continued, "we need to talk about your future. You're already 30. It's time to take full control of the company and think about starting a family." Maya watched David swallow hard. "Mom, I've already arranged a dinner so you can get to know Sarah Morrison better. She has a business degree from Harvard, comes from a respectable family. She'd be perfect for you." "Mom, I don't want an arranged marriage." "It's not arranged, dear. It's strategic. You need a wife who understands the business world, someone who can support you socially." Maya watched the tension accumulate across David's face. It was like watching someone slowly being suffocated. "And regarding your work," Mrs. Chun continued, "I hope you're concentrating on executive decisions and not getting pulled into less important activities." "Less important activities?" David's voice had developed a slight edge. "Well, your father had the same tendency, wanting to help people directly. He learned, eventually, that our role is to run the company, not to do hands-on work." Maya saw something extinguish behind David's eyes. "Of course, Mom. I understand." The phone on the desk rang. The hospital's direct line. Maya answered instinctively. "Dr. Chen's office." "Maya? This is the head nurse. We need Dr. Chen urgently. Cardiac arrest in the ICU." Maya looked at David, who had gone pale. He looked at his mother, then at Maya, visibly torn. "Tell them he's in a meeting," Mrs. Chen muttered. "Medical emergencies aren't his responsibility." But Maya saw the same fire in David's eyes she'd seen earlier when he spoke about his calling, and she made her decision. "He's on his way down," she said into the receiver. David stared at her in shock. Mrs. Chun frowned. "Down where?" his mother demanded. Maya stood steady. "Mrs. Chun, your son is the best doctor I have ever met. He saves lives every day. That isn't hands-on work. It's a gift. Miss Rodriguez, I don't believe you understand." "I understand perfectly." Maya cut her off, her conviction building with each word. "I understand that you have an extraordinary son who could live comfortably without lifting a finger, and instead chooses to work 18-hour days saving people. That's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of." The silence in the office had real weight to it. David looked at Maya with an expression she couldn't fully read. "David," Mrs. Chun said slowly, "do you actually work as a doctor?" David drew a breath. "Yes, Mom, I do, and I love it. The company runs fine. I have an excellent executive team, but I need to practice medicine. It's who I am." Mrs. Chen looked between her son and Maya, processing. "And you," she said to Maya, "you're not actually a secretary, are you?" "No, ma'am. I'm an Air Force pilot. I'm here because I admire your son and wanted to support him." Maya's phone rang. "Sophia." "Maya, where are you? I need you here." Maya looked at David, who nodded for her to go. "Go," he said softly. "Your sister needs you. Your mother and we should have a long conversation a while ago." Maya paused at the door. "David, what you said earlier about me being afraid of vulnerability. You were right, but you've shown me that some things are worth fighting for." She left before he could respond, leaving mother and son to face years of unspoken truths. When she got home, she found Sophia crying again, but this time not alone. A man stood in the apartment, identical to David, but carrying a completely different presence. "Maya," Sophia said through tears. "Diego's back." The man turned, and Maya saw David's face wearing an expression she had never once seen on the doctor's, a mixture of arrogance and unease. "You must be the soldier's sister," Diego said, with a smile that never reached his eyes. "Sophia's told me a lot about you." Maya studied the man before her. Same face, same height, but none of David's warmth. This was the man who had hurt her sister. Twice. You must be the coward who runs when things get serious, Maya shot back, her protective instincts activating fully. Diego laughed, though it wasn't a pleasant sound, the kind people use when trying to feel superior. Soldiers, just like my brother, always thinking he's better than everyone. Sophia stood, wiping her tears. Diego, you promised we'd talk about the baby. And we will. His eyes avoided hers entirely. I just need time to sort things out. Time. Maya burst out. You've had 2 months. Sophia is pregnant and scared. And you want more time? Diego turned to her, irritated. Listen, soldier girl. This is between Sophia and me. None of your business. It is my business. Maya stepped forward, her training engaging automatically. Sophia is my sister, and if you hurt her again, you'll have to deal with me. Maya, please. Sophia placed herself between them. Let him explain. Diego ran a hand through his hair, genuinely troubled. Sophia, you don't get it. I'm not like my brother. I'm not good with responsibility. Every time I try to do the right thing, I ruin it. Then learn, Maya snapped. She's not asking for perfection, just for you to show up. You don't understand, Diego shouted. And for the first time, Maya glimpsed genuine vulnerability beneath the arrogance. My whole life, I've been compared to David. He's always the perfect one, the brilliant doctor, the one who never lets anyone down. I'm the failure of the family. Maya looked at his face, so similar to David's, carrying an entirely different kind of weight. Where David carried the burden of impossible expectations, Diego carried the burden of never meeting them. That's not an excuse for walking out on Sophia, she said, though her voice had softened. I know, Diego murmured. I know I'm a coward. But what if I mess up the baby's life too? What if I'm a terrible father? Sophia moved closer, gently touching his face. Diego, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to try. Maya's phone rang. David. Maya, are you all right? His voice carried genuine concern, and warmth spread through her chest at the sound of it. I'm Fina. How'd it go with your mother? Complicated. Eye-opening. Listen, can I see you? I need to talk. Maya glanced at Sophia and Diego, now sitting together on the couch, talking quietly. I can't leave right now. My sister needs me. Is it about Diego? Did he show up? He did. They're talking now. A pause. Maya, can I come over? Maybe I can help. Diego and I. We're complicated, but he's still my brother. Maya hesitated. Both brothers in one room had real explosive potential. Okay, but if you're coming to judge him, I'm not. I promise. 20 minutes later, David was at the door, still in his business suit, his white coat draped over it like a kind of armor. The tension when Diego saw him was immediate. David, Diego said, guarded. Diego, David replied without hostility. Sophia leaned toward Maya. It's so strange seeing them together. Diego, David began. Maya told me what's happening. Are you okay? The question caught Diego off guard. He'd evidently expected judgment, not concern. Since when do you care how I'm doing? I've always cared, David said calmly. You're the one who never wanted my help. Your help. Diego's laugh was bitter. David, every time you help me, it just reminds everyone how much of a failure I am compared to you. Maya saw David flinch as though struck. Diego, I never wanted you to feel that way. No? Then how should I feel? You're a Harvard-trained doctor running a hospital empire, saving lives daily. I can't keep a job for 6 months. And you think my life is easy? David snapped, surprising everyone present. You think it's easy being expected to be perfect at all times? Never being allowed to fail? Never just being human? Diego blinked, clearly not expecting that response. Every mistake I make, David continued, isn't just a mistake. It's the mistake of the perfect son. Every time I disappoint someone, it's worse because I should have known better. Maya looked at both brothers and recognized something she hadn't noticed before. They weren't opposites at all. They were two manifestations of the same pressure, carried in opposite directions. You two are idiots, she said suddenly. Everyone turned to her. You've spent your entire lives competing instead of supporting each other. David, you carry guilt for being successful. Diego, you carry anger for never matching him. But neither of you ever actually tried to know the other one. Sophia nodded firmly. Maya's right. You're brothers. You should be on the same side. Diego looked at David, then at Sophia. I don't know how to be a good father. I don't know how to be responsible. No one's born knowing, David said gently. But you can learn, and you don't have to do it alone. Would you help me? Diego asked, his voice quiet. Of course. We're brothers. Maya felt her eyes fill. There was something genuinely beautiful about watching two people who loved each other finally understand one another. The moment was interrupted by David's phone, ringing urgently. Dr. Chun, we have an emergency. Plane crash at Logan Airport. Multiple victims incoming. We need you now. David turned pale. How many victims? 15 confirmed. More still being recovered. It's serious, doctor. David hung up and looked at Maya. I have to go. Of course, she said. But something in his face worried her. Maya, he hesitated at the door. Could you, if it's not too much? What is it? Would you come with me? I know it's a strange request, but I do better when you're there. Maya's heart skipped. David, I'm not a doctor. I can't help with patients. That's not it. It's just, you give me strength. You remind me why I do this. Maya glanced at Sophia, who nodded encouragingly. Go, Maya. Diego and I will be fine. We still have a lot to discuss. Diego nodded. And Maya, thank you for taking care of her when I was too much of a coward to do it myself. Maya nodded and followed David out the door. They ran to his car in silence. But when they reached the hospital, David paused before entering. Maya, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? Earlier, when you defended my work to my mother. No one's ever done that for me before. Maya felt her cheeks warm. David, and when you said I give you strength? He looked at her directly. It goes both ways. You give me strength too. They looked at each other for a moment that felt suspended in time. Something was growing between them that neither of them had a name for yet. Dr. Chun, a nurse called from the entrance. We need you. The moment broke, but David quickly caught Maya's hand. Stay. Yes, she said, and together they ran toward the emergency that awaited them. But Maya had no way of knowing that in the hours ahead, it wouldn't only be the crash victims who would need saving. Her own military career was about to be put at risk in ways she never could have anticipated. The hospital had descended into total chaos. Ambulances arrived in unbroken succession, sirens carving through the Boston night like cries of despair. Maya followed David through the corridors, watching his transformation with something close to awe. The shy man had vanished entirely, replaced by a focused, decisive professional. Dr. Chun, a nurse, ran toward them. 15 confirmed victims. 3 critical. 2 children among the injured. David nodded, already pulling on gloves and a mask. Where are the worst cases? Trauma 1 and 2. One of the children needs immediate cardiac surgery. Maya watched David draw a breath. I'll operate. Prep the or. David. She touched his arm before he could run off. You can do this. He looked at her, and for a moment she saw the vulnerable man beneath the medical authority. Stay close. I'm not going anywhere. Maya spent the next 4 hours watching David work. It was like watching a precise, brutal kind of choreography. Every movement deliberate, every decision exact. He saved the child requiring cardiac surgery, repaired a man with internal injuries, and still found time between procedures to comfort terrified families in the hallway. When he finally stepped out of the last operating room, it was past 3 in the morning. He was exhausted, but smiling. We did it, he told Maya. Everyone's going to make it. You're remarkable, Maya said, and watched him blush even through the exhaustion. The moment was severed by a stern voice. Captain Rodriguez. Maya turned to see Colonel Thompson, her direct superior, approaching with a grim expression. Colonel, what are you doing here? Checking on the crash victims. It was a military aircraft, Captain, and I have bad news regarding your situation. Maya's stomach sank. What situation? The final report on the incident from 2 weeks ago is complete. You're being held responsible for the protocol failure that nearly caused a mid-air collision. Colonel, I followed every procedure. The findings say otherwise, Captain. Your flight clearance is suspended indefinitely. You have 48 hours to report to base for a disciplinary hearing. Maya felt the floor tilt beneath her. She had dedicated her entire life to military aviation. It was everything she knew how to be. "Colonel, please. There has to be an error." "There is no error, Captain. I suggest you use these 48 hours to reflect on your conduct." The colonel walked away, leaving Maya standing in the hallway feeling as though she'd been struck in the chest. David approached, concerned. "Maya? What happened?" "I lost my clearance," she whispered, still processing it. "They're blaming me for an accident that wasn't my fault." "What do you mean?" Maya leaned against the wall, her legs unsteady. 2 weeks ago, there was a near collision between 2 military aircraft. I was in a control tower. Someone issued an incorrect instruction, but they're holding me responsible. David stepped closer. "Are you certain it wasn't you?" Maya looked at him, wounded. "You think I made the mistake too?" "No," David said quickly. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. It's just, there's usually a reason behind investigations like this." "There is," Maya said bitterly. "The reason is they need someone to blame, and a woman pilot is an easy target." David fell quiet, clearly unsure what to say. "Forget it," Maya said, stepping away. "You wouldn't understand. You've never had to prove you deserve your place." "Maya, wait." She was already walking toward the exit. She needed air. She needed to think. Her entire career, everything she had fought for, was collapsing. Outside the hospital, Maya sat on the front steps and finally allowed the tears to come. She hadn't cried since childhood, but now she couldn't seem to stop. "Maya." She looked up to find David approaching with 2 coffees. "Thought you might need this," he said, handing one over. "Thanks," she murmured, accepting it without meeting his eyes. David sat beside her on the steps. "Do you want to tell me what actually happened?" Maya sighed. "I was working a double shift. The other controller called in sick at the last minute. There were 2 training aircraft with new pilots. One drifted into restricted airspace, and I gave the correct correction coordinates. But someone, I don't know who, issued a contradicting instruction on the secondary channel. And they're blaming you? They say I should have double-checked every communication channel, that it was negligence." Maya laughed, humorless. 10 years of flawless service, and one confused 30 seconds ruins everything. David was quiet for a moment. "What if I told you I could find out what really?" Maya looked at him, skeptical. "I have contacts, people who are my family too. I could ask them quiet questions." "David, you don't have to do that." "I want to," he cut in. "You defended my right to choose my career. Let me defend yours." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "Why would you do that for me?" David hesitated, looking at his hands. "Because you're the first person who sees me for who I actually am. Not the wealthy heir. Not the perfect son. Not the famous doctor. Just David." They looked at each other, and Maya felt that same electric tension rebuild. David leaned in slightly. "Dr. Chun." The nurse's voice interrupted them again. "Emergency. Patient needs urgent transport to New York. Heart transplant. 6-hour window." David was on his feet instantly. "What's the complication?" "Storm rolling in. All commercial flights are grounded. We need a pilot willing to fly through it." Maya and David looked at each other simultaneously. "No," David said immediately. "You don't have your military license anymore." "For military flights," Maya corrected. "I can still fly civilian aircraft in a medical emergency." "Maya, it's dangerous. That storm. This is a human life, David. And didn't you say you work better when I'm around?" "I work better when I can save lives. Let me help you save this one." David studied her for a long moment. "Are you certain?" "Completely." An hour later, Maya sat in the cockpit of a small medical running through the instrument checks. David was behind her, monitoring a 50-year-old patient in induced coma, kept alive by the machine surrounding him. "Ready?" David asked, his voice tight. "Born ready," Maya replied, starting the engines. Takeoff was smooth, but as they pushed toward New York, the storm intensified. The aircraft shook violently, and Maya called on every reserve of skill she had to hold it steady. "How's the patient?" she shouted over the noise. "Stable, but we need him to the hospital within 3 hours or it'll be too late." A violent gust dropped the plane suddenly. Maya heard David collide with the side of the medical cabin. "David, are you okay?" "Fina, keep flying." Maya gripped the controls. This was the kind of storm experienced pilots avoided by professional reflex. But a life hung in the balance, and David was counting on her. Maya, his voice came through calmer now. Can I tell you something? Right now. I need to say it. In case we don't make it. In case something happens. Maya's pulse accelerated, but her eyes stayed locked on the instruments. Go ahead. I was never good enough for my mother. No matter what I do, I feel like I'm letting someone down. But when I'm with you, for the first time in my entire life, I feel like I can just be myself. Maya felt her eyes fill, though she couldn't tell if it was the storm or something else. David, and you, he continued, you're the bravest person I know. Not because you're a soldier, because you fight for the people you love. Like you fought for Sophia. Like you're fighting now for a patient you've never even met. David, you're making me cry, and I need to see the instruments. She heard him laugh, even through the storm. It's just that. Maya, I think I'm falling in love with you. The words struck her like lightning. She nearly lost the aircraft's heading. You what? I'm in love with you. And if we survive this, I like the chance to prove I deserve you. Maya saw New York's lights breaking through the clouds. 15 minutes till landing. David. Yes. Ask me again when we're on the ground. Why? Because my answer might distract you from the patient. She heard him laugh once more, and somehow, even in the middle of the most dangerous storm of her career, Maya had never once felt so safe. Maya landed the aircraft in New York with skill that surprised even herself, the storm howling around them the entire descent. Her hands trembled slightly as she powered down the engines, but not from fear. Pure adrenaline. They had made it. The patient was within window. Incredible, David whispered behind her, watching her shut down systems with the precision of someone who'd done it 10,000 times. You're absolutely incredible. Maya turned in her seat, finally letting a smile break through. Ask me again. What? What you said during the flight. Ask me again. David swallowed, suddenly nervous all over again. Maya Rodriguez, I'm completely in love with you, and I want to know if you might feel something similar for me. Maya rose from her seat and crossed him, ignoring the medical team rushing to extract the patient, and without warning pulled him close and kissed him. The kiss was intense, weighted with everything they'd both held back since they met. David responded immediately, his hands finding her face. That's my answer, Maya whispered against his lips when they paused for air. Dr. Chun, we need to move the patient now. The paramedics' urgency pulled them apart. David stepped back, reluctant. Can we finish this later? Count on it, Maya said, watching him run to help with the transfer. 3 hours later, they were back in Boston. The transplant had succeeded, and David was elated, more animated than Maya had ever seen him. You saved a life today, he said as they crossed the hospital parking lot. If you hadn't had the courage to fly through that storm. We save a life, Maya corrected. We make a good team. David stopped walking and pulled her into a hug right there in the lot. Maya, a camera flash cut him off. They separated quickly, finding a man with a professional camera shooting from near the landing pad. Hey, David shouted. What are you doing? The photographer's smile carried nothing pleasant in it. Getting the photo of the year, Dr. Chun, or should I say billionaire David Chun? Maya felt her blood go cold. David, who is this? Tabloid journalist from the Boston Buzz, David replied, defeat already settling across his face. They love following my family. The photographer kept clicking. Heir to the Chin fortune in a secret romance with a military pilot? This is tomorrow's headline. Don't publish that, David said, working to remain calm. I'll pay whatever you want. Oh no, Dr. Chun. This story's worth far more than any bribe. The man packed his equipment and ran. Maya looked at David, whose face had drained of all color. David, what does this mean? It means, he said heavily, our private life is going to be on the front page of every paper in Boston by morning. And it was. Maya woke to her phone, ringing without pause. When she finally answered, it was Sophia, sounding frantic. Maya, did you see the paper? You're on the front page. Maya rushed to the corner newsstand. The headline screamed in bold type, Secret Romance, Billionaire Heir and Military Pilot in Hot Affair. The photograph showed her and David kissing on the helipad, captioned, David Chun, heir to the Chin Medical Group fortune, caught in an intimate moment with Air Force Captain Maya Rodriguez. Her phone rang again. David. Maya, did you see it? I did. David, this is terrible. It gets worse. My mother called. She's furious. Because of our relationship? Because of everything. She found out I work as a doctor. Found out about you. Found out I've been lying to her for years. Guilt knotted in Maya's stomach. David, I'm so sorry. If I hadn't. It's not your fault. He cut her off. It was only a matter of time before this came out. What did she say? A long pause. That I'm out of the company. That if I choose to work as an ordinary doctor and date unsuitable people, I can do it without the family's money. Maya felt that landed like a physical blow. David, no. You can't lose everything because of me. Maya, you don't understand. I don't want the money if it comes with those terms. Before she could respond, her phone rang again. Coronel Thompson. Captain Rodriguez. Report to base immediately. Colonel, I can explain. No explanation needed. Captain, your photograph is in every newspaper in this city. A military pilot in a public relationship with a billionaire civilian raises national security concerns. Maya felt the world spin. Security concerns? Report to my office in 1 hour, Captain. Bring your uniform. You may need to surrender it. The call ended. Maya stared at her phone, watching her military career disintegrate in real time. An hour later, she stood in Colonel Thompson's office, feeling smaller than she had at any point during 10 years of service. Captain Rodriguez, the colonel began. This situation is unacceptable. Colonel, my personal life doesn't interfere with my work. Doesn't interfere? You're involved with a man with access to government contracts and international connections. That's a security risk. David never had access to any military information through me. Furthermore, the colonel continued, you flew last night without authorization. It was a medical emergency. It was a protocol violation combined with the previous incident, and now this public exposure. The colonel paused. I'm recommending your dishonorable discharge. Maya's legs went weak. Dishonorable discharge meant losing every benefit, every shred of reputation, everything. Colonel, please. The Air Force is my life. You should have considered that before involving yourself with unsuitable people. Maya left the base 2 hours later carrying a box of personal effects. 10 years of service had ended in a single morning. David was waiting outside her apartment building, equally devastated. Maya, how did it go? Dishonorably discharged. She couldn't look at him. And you? Disinherited. Officially removed from all company positions. My mother said if I want to be a doctor, I can, but not with a cent of family money. They sat on the building steps, two people who had lost everything in a single day. David, Maya finally said, this can't continue. What do you mean? Look at us. You lost your inheritance. I lost my career. Maybe we shouldn't be together. David turned to her, shocked. Maya, you can't be serious. I am. We've known each other a week. Is it worth destroying our lives over this? It is, David said firmly. Maya, for the first time in my life, I'm genuinely happy. I don't care about the money. I don't care about my family's approval. I care about you. Tears began falling. David, you don't understand. Without my military career, I'm nothing. It's all I've ever known how to be. You're so much more than your career, David said, taking her hands. Stop, Maya said, standing. Stop trying to comfort me. The truth is we've both lost everything, and now we're clinging to each other thinking that we'll fix it. David stood too. Maya, you're frightened. I understand that. But don't let fear destroy what we have. What do we have? Maya laughed bitterly. David, we've known each other a week and shared 2 kisses. That's not enough to throw your entire life away for. It is for me, David said simply. Maya looked at him, a man who had walked away from billions for her, who had risked everything to stand at her side, and felt her heart breaking. I can't, David. I can't be the reason your life falls apart. You're not ruining anything. You're giving me the chance to actually live. But Maya was already climbing the stairs. We should take a break, David, until things settle. Maya, don't do this. She stopped at the door, not turning around. Thank you for everything, David. Truly. But I need to figure out who I am without the uniform. And you need to figure out who you are without your family's money. Maya stepped inside, leaving David alone on the steps. On the other side of the door, she leaned against it and finally let herself cry. Outside, David stood for a long time, staring at the closed door. When he finally walked away, his face showed quiet, stubborn determination. He had lost Maya, for now, but he had no intention of giving up. Not ever. 3 weeks had passed since Maya closed that door. 3 of the hardest weeks of her life. Without her career and without him, she felt unmoored in a city that suddenly seemed strange and unfamiliar. She had taken night shifts at a small diner downtown, waiting tables to cover rent. Her hands, once trained for the cockpit of military aircraft, now carried plates and wiped sticky tables. "Table 6 wants more coffee," the cook shouted, and Maya sighed, grabbing the carafe. As she turned toward the table, she nearly dropped the pot entirely. David sat alone at table 6, dark circles beneath his eyes, his clothes wrinkled like he hadn't slept in days. "David," Maya whispered, "what are you doing here?" "Having coffee," he said simply, "and trying to see you. It's been 3 weeks." Maya glanced around nervously. The manager was watching from the kitchen. "You can't be here. I have to work." "Then work. I just want coffee." She filled his cup with shaking hands. "How did you find me?" "Sophia told me." David took a sip and grimaced. "This coffee is terrible. It's what we have." Maya turned to leave, but David gently caught her wrist. "Maya, please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." "I can't." "Miss," the manager called from the kitchen. "Stop chatting with customers and get back to work." Maya pulled her hand free and hurried away. But all night, she could feel his eyes following her. He stayed until closing, drinking terrible coffee, leaving tips far larger than Maya knew she couldn't accept. When her shift ended at 2 in the morning, David was still outside, waiting. "Go home, David," Maya said, exhausted. "There's nothing left to say." "There is. Sophia's in the hospital." Maya went cold. "What happened?" "Preterm labor. She's only 7 months along." Her blood ran cold. "Is she okay?" "The baby? She needs an emergency C-section. Right now." But David hesitated. "But what?" "The doctor on duty doesn't have enough experience with premature births, and he ran a hand through his hair. "I was suspended from the hospital." "Suspended? Why?" "For performing surgery without authorization 3 weeks ago. When I saved your sister the first time Diego disappeared." Maya felt the world tilt. "David? No. You lost your job because of me. That doesn't matter now. What matters is Sophia. She's asking for you and the baby." "Maya, if I don't operate, they could both die." Maya didn't hesitate. "Then you go to operate." "I can't. I am suspended. If I get caught, I lose my medical license permanently. And if you don't, my sister or my nephew die." Maya looked him directly in the eyes. "David, you're the best doctor I know. Sophia trusts you. I trust you." David studied her for a long moment. "If I do this, there's no going back. My career will be over. And if you don't, 2 lives will be gone. It's your choice." 20 minutes later, Maya ran through the hospital corridors beside David. They entered through the emergency entrance, avoiding the main lobby where he might be recognized. Sophia was in the delivery room, pale and terrified. Diego held her hand, looking even more frightened than she did. "Maya," Sophia cried out. "You came." "Of course I did, silly." Maya kissed her sister's forehead. "How are you feeling?" "Scared." "It's too early, Maya. What if something goes wrong?" Maya turned to David, already checking the monitors. "Nothing's going to go wrong," Maya said firmly. "You have the best doctor in the world right here." "But the doctor said he's not allowed to." "Sophia," David interrupted gently. "Do you want me to take care of you and the baby?" "More than anything." "Then that's what I'm going to do." He turned to Maya. "You need to leave. If they find out you brought me here." "I'm not going anywhere," Maya said. "My sister needs me." The surgery lasted 2 tense hours. Maya stayed beside Sophia, holding her hand, whispering comfort. Diego stood on the other side, pale but resolute about not leaving. David worked with his usual precision, though Maya could read the tension in his shoulders. A nurse who recognized him attempted to protest, but David simply said, "You can report me afterward. Right now, help me save these 2 lives." When the baby's cry finally broke through the room, Maya felt tears stream down her face. "It's a boy," David announced, holding the tiny, healthy newborn. "And he's perfect." Sophia cried with joy, and Diego kissed her forehead repeatedly. "Thank you," Sophia whispered to David. "Thank you for saving my son." David smiled, but Maya caught the sadness underneath it. They both knew the consequences were coming. They arrived faster than expected. As David finished Sophia's stitches, the hospital administrator walked in with 2 security guards. "Dr. David Chun," the administrator said formally, "you're under arrest for practicing medicine while suspended." Maya stood immediately. He just saved 2 lives and breached an official suspension. "Dr. Chun, I need you to come with us." David calmly removed his surgical gloves. "Can I at least say goodbye to my patient?" The administrator hesitated, then nodded. David stepped to Sophia's bedside. "You and the baby will be fine. Follow your instructions and rest." "David," Sophia took his hand. "Thank you. You risked everything for us." "It was worth it," he said simply. As David turned to leave with the guards, Maya stopped him. "David, wait." He turned, and Maya saw all the love and all the pain in his eyes. She started, but couldn't find the words. "I know," David said softly. "Take care, Sophia. And take care of yourself, too." Maya watched them lead him away, feeling her heart break completely. She'd spent the past 3 weeks trying to convince herself she didn't love him. But watching him sacrifice his medical career for her family had shattered every defense she'd constructed. "Maya," Sophia called weakly. "Are you okay?" Maya turned, trying to smile. "I'm fine. How are you feeling?" "Tired. Happy." Sophia looked at the baby in Diego's arms. "Maya, that man really loves you." "I know. Then why aren't you going after him?" Maya sank into the chair beside the bed. "Because he lost everything because of me, Sophia. The inheritance, his job, and now his license. I ruined his life." "Or," Sophia said gently, "you gave him the chance to discover who he really is." Diego, who'd been silent, finally spoke. "Maya, can I say something?" "Of course. My brother spent his entire life trying to please everyone. I've never seen him this free as he's been the last few weeks. Even without money. Even with all the problems." "What do you mean, free?" "Free to be who he actually is. Free to choose what matters." Diego looked down at the baby in his arms. "You taught me that running from your problems never fixes anything. Maybe it's time you learned the same lesson." Maya looked at her newborn nephew, so small, yet already breathing steadily. A new life David had helped bring into the world, fully aware of the price he'd pay for it. "Sophia," she finally said, "are you all right here with Diego?" "Why? Where are you going?" Maya stood, that old sense of purpose rising in her chest. "I'm going after the man I love, and I'm going to fight for him the same way he fought for us." Sophia smiled. "Now, that's the Maya I know." Maya kissed her sister and her nephew, waved to Diego, and ran out of the hospital. She had a medical hearing to attend and a man to fight for. For the first time in weeks, she felt like the brave military pilot she had always been. And this time, the mission was to save the heart that had saved hers. The medical board hearing was scheduled for 9 in the morning at the Massachusetts Medical Association headquarters. Maya arrived an hour early, still in her restaurant uniform, but carrying a determination she hadn't felt in weeks. The building was imposing, all marble and glass, intimidating as a courtroom. "May I help you?" the receptionist asked, glancing curiously at her waitress uniform. "I'm here for Dr. David Chen's hearing," Maya said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "The hearing is closed. Board members and the accused only." "I'm a witness," Maya lied boldly. "A defense witness." The receptionist checked her list. "I don't see your name here." "Maya Rodriguez, Captain, U.S. Air Force," Maya said, deploying her former rank with firm authority. "I was called in at the last minute." Something in her tone evidently convinced the woman, because she pointed down the hallway. "Room 205, second floor." Maya climbed the stairs with her heart pounding. She had no script in mind, but she knew she couldn't let David face this alone. When she reached the room, the hearing was already underway. David sat at a table in the center, in a plain suit with no lawyer present. 5 doctors in expensive suits surrounded him, watching like judges. "Dr. Chun," said the board chairman, gray-haired and severe, "do you admit to performing surgery while under official suspension?" "Ido," David replied calmly. "Do you understand this is a serious violation of medical ethics?" "I understand." Maya felt anger building. David wasn't even defending himself. "Do you have anything to say in your defense?" another board member asked. David was quiet for a moment. "Ido, a woman and her baby were dying. I had the skill to save them. I did what any doctor should do." "You were not, at that time, a practicing doctor," the chairman shot back. "You were suspended." "A piece of paper doesn't change who I am," David said firmly. "I might lose my license, I might lose my job, but I won't lose my conscience." That was when Maya could no longer stay seated. She rose from the back row. "Excuse me," she said loudly, and every head in the room turned. "And who are you?" the chairman asked, clearly irritated by the interruption. "Maya Rodriguez. I want to testify on Dr. Chen's behalf." David turned, his eyes widening with surprise and something that looked unmistakably like hope. "Miss Rodriguez, this hearing does not permit witness testimony." "Well, maybe it should," Maya interrupted, walking to the front with every ounce of military confidence she could summon. "You're judging the best doctor I have ever met without listening to the people he saved." "Miss, please." "Sofia Rodriguez is my sister," Maya continued, ignoring the protests. "She went into premature labor. She and the baby were both in danger. The doctor on duty lacked sufficient experience. David Chun risked his career to save them." She turned to face the board fully. "You want to revoke the license of a man who put human lives above his own safety? A man who works 18-hour days, treats poor patients for free, and never refuses an emergency." "Miss Rodriguez," the chairman tried again, but Maya was past stopping. "3 weeks ago, this man flew with me through a dangerous storm to deliver a heart for transplant. He saved that life too. And now you want to punish him for doing exactly what doctors are meant to do: save lives." One board member leaned forward. "We understand your gratitude, but rules exist for a reason." "Rules?" Maya laughed without warmth. "Let me tell you about rules. I served 10 years in the Air Force. I followed rules my entire life, and I lost my career because I flew a medical emergency mission while technically suspended." She gestured toward David. "This man lost everything too: his inheritance, his position at the family company, and now you want his license. Why? Because he saves lives." The room had gone completely silent. Maya drew a breath and continued, her voice softer now. "David Chun is the son of billionaires. He could be lying on a beach somewhere, spending money. Instead, he chose to work as an ordinary doctor, concealing his wealth so people would value him for who he is, not what he owns." She looked directly at the chairman. "How many doctors do you know who give up billions to work in public hospitals? How many risk everything to save strangers?" "That isn't the point," the chairman began. "That is precisely the point," Maya burst out. "You're punishing a man for being too much of a doctor, for caring too much, for putting the medical oath above red tape." She turned to David, who watched her with a mixture of admiration, love, and total shock. "David Chin taught me that being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means doing the right thing anyway. He was afraid of losing his license, but he operated anyway because 2 lives depended on him." She turned to the board one final time. "If you revoke his license, you'll send a terrible message to every doctor in this state, that following rules matters more than saving lives, that protecting your career outranks protecting your patients." She paused, letting the words settle. "Sofia Rodriguez is alive today. My nephew, Nicholas Rodriguez Chun, is alive today. Because of this man. If that doesn't matter to you, then perhaps you're the ones who don't deserve to be doctors." The silence that followed was overwhelming. Maya could hear her own pulse. She had said everything she felt. Now there was nothing left to do but wait. Finally, the chairman spoke. "Miss Rodriguez, thank you for your statement. Dr. Chun, Would you like to add anything? David stood slowly. Yes, I would. He looked directly at Maya. For years, I tried to be the perfect son, the perfect doctor, the perfect person. It never worked because I was trying to please everyone except myself. He turned to the board. When I operated on Sofia Rodriguez, I wasn't thinking about my license. I wasn't thinking about my career. I was thinking about a young mother and a baby who needed help. And if you're asking whether I'd do it again, he paused. I would. Every time. He looked back at Maya. Maya taught me that some things matter more than being safe. Some battles are worth fighting even if you lose everything. He took a breath. If you revoke my license, I'll accept that. But I'll still find other ways to help people. Because being a doctor isn't about a certificate on a wall. It's about having compassion in your heart. The chairman conferred quietly with the other board members for several tense minutes. At last, he stood. Dr. Chun, this board acknowledges your protocol violation. However, we also recognize that your actions saved 2 lives. Maya held her breath. We are issuing a formal reprimand and placing you under 6 months of direct supervision by a senior physician. Your license remains valid. Maya felt her legs go weak with relief. David had won. However, the chairman continued, you are permanently barred from practicing at any hospital within the Chun Medical Group network. David nodded. I understand. Thank you. When the hearing ended, Maya and David met in the hallway. For a moment, neither said anything. You came, David finally said. Of course I did. Why? Maya smiled, tears gathering. Because you taught me that some people are worth fighting for. David stepped closer. Maya, David, I'm sorry. For running. For giving up on us. For. He gently placed a finger against her lips. You didn't run. You were scared. There's a difference. He smiled. That shy smile she'd come to love. And now you're here. Fighting for me. Exactly like I always knew you would once you were ready. Maya moved closer. David Chun, I love you. I love your courage, your kindness, your stubbornness, and your insistence on always doing what's right. Maya Rodriguez, he whispered. Will you marry me? The question caught her completely off guard. What? Marry me. Today, tomorrow, whenever you're ready. Just marry me. Maya looked at him, the man who had given up everything for her, who had risked his career to save her family, who loved her with a passion that scared and moved her in equal measure. Yes, she said, pulling him into a kiss right there in the hallway of the Massachusetts Medical Association. Yes, I'll marry you. A few months later, Boston General looked entirely different. Maya walked halls she now knew by heart, observing the changes David had implemented since becoming medical director of the new pediatric emergency wing. Dr. Chen's in room 3, said Nurse Sarah, smiling. The whole staff had grown accustomed to Maya's daily visits. Maya found David finishing an exam on a 5-year-old with a broken arm. He wore a regular lab coat now, by choice rather than necessity. Well, little warrior, David told the girl, you'll be just fine in 6 weeks. No more tree climbing until then. Okay. The girl giggled. Okay, Dr. David. Maya watched the scene with her heart full. David had found his place, working at a public hospital, earning an ordinary salary, saving lives every day with a smile. Hey, fiancé, David said when he spotted her. Hey, future husband, she replied, still adjusting to the words. They left the hospital hand in hand. David had purchased a small but comfortable apartment 2 blocks from a hospital. Maya had found work as a flight instructor at a civilian aviation school. It wasn't the Air Force, but she discovered she loved teaching young pilots to fall in love with the sky the way she once had. How was the rehearsal? David asked as they walked. Your mother and my father nearly came to blows over flower colors. Sophia managed to calm them down. Over the months, their families had learned to coexist. Mrs. Chun had finally visited David at the hospital and seen with her own eyes how genuinely happy he was. It would take time for her to fully accept his choices, but she was trying. Colonel Rodriguez had been harder to win over. But once he met David and saw how he treated Maya, with respect, admiration, and real love, he began accepting that his daughter had found a man worthy of her. And Diego? David asked, how's he handling being a godfather twice over? Maya smiled. Diego had changed considerably. Becoming a father had matured him in significant ways. He and Sophia had married in a small ceremony at the hospital, with 1-month-old Nicholas in his mother's arms. Diego now worked at a marketing firm, held a steady job, and had proven himself a dedicated, loving father. He's nervous but happy. Says it's the first time he's done something important without ruining it. They arrived at the apartment to find Sophia in the kitchen, trying to calm Nicholas, who was crying in Diego's arms. "He won't stop," Diego said, looking desperate. "I've tried everything." David crossed over and quickly examined the baby. "It's colic, normal at his age." He showed Diego how to gently massage the baby's belly to ease the discomfort. Maya watched the brothers working together, David teaching patiently, Diego learning carefully. They had finally found their balance, supporting each other instead of competing. "Maya," Sophia said, "I need to show you something." She led Maya to the bedroom and opened a large box. Inside was the most beautiful wedding dress Maya had ever seen. Simple, elegant, perfect. "Sophia, it's stunning, but it must have cost a fortune." "Actually," said a voice behind them, "it was a gift." Maya turned to find Mrs. Chun at the door, holding a shopping bag. "Mrs. Chun, I didn't know you were here." David's mother entered with her usual grace, but there was a softness on her face that hadn't been there before. "Maya, dear, may I speak with you?" They sat in the living room while the men continued tending to the baby in the kitchen. "Maya," Mrs. Chun began, "I owe you an apology." "An apology? For what?" "For judging you before I knew you. For trying to keep you and David apart." Mrs. Chun sighed. "I spent so much time worrying about what was proper for my son that I nearly cost him the best thing that ever happened to him." Maya felt her eyes fill. "Mrs. Chun, I went to the hospital last week. I watched David work. I saw how the patients love him, how the staff respects him. I saw the happiness in his face." She took Maya's hands. "He's never been as happy as he is with you. I'm happy with him too. I know, and that's why I want to give you something." Mrs. Chun produced a small blue velvet box from a bag. Inside was a vintage engagement ring, a diamond surrounded by tiny sapphires. "This ring belonged to my grandmother, then my mother, then to me. It's always been a Chun family tradition to pass it on to the daughter-in-law." She smiled. "David doesn't know. I want you to wear it tomorrow." Maya looked at the ring, then at Mrs. Chun. "I don't know what to say. Just promise me you'll take care of my son, and let him take care of you too." "I promise." The next day was the wedding. St. Paul's Church in downtown Boston was simply decorated but full of love. White and blue flowers covered the altar, and the families sat together, Chin's and Rodriguez's side by side, finally united. Maya stood in the bride's room, looking at her reflection. The dress fit perfectly. The Chun family ring sparkled on her finger, and Sophia had styled her hair beautifully. "You look radiant," Sophia said, holding Nicholas, who wore a tiny tuxedo. "I'm nervous," Maya admitted. "Why? What if he changes his mind? What if he realizes he could have someone better?" Sophia laughed. "Maya, you saved his career. You stood by him when everyone else turned their backs, and you love him exactly as he is. If anyone should be worried right now, it's him." A knock at the door interrupted them. Colonel Rodriguez, sharp in his full military dress uniform. "Sweetheart," he said, and Maya saw something move in his eyes. "It's time." They walked to the church entrance. The music began, and Maya saw David at the altar, handsome in a simple tuxedo, Diego beside him as best man. When David saw her walking toward him, his face lit with the most beautiful smile she'd ever seen. Maya felt every remaining doubt dissolve. Colonel Rodriguez gave Maya to David with a firm handshake and a whisper. "Take care, my girl." "With my life," David replied. The ceremony was simple but moving. When it was time for vows, David spoke first. "Maya, you came into my office and my life like a hurricane. You taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, it's courage. I promise to love you, support you, and fly by your side for the rest of my life." Maya felt the tears fall freely. "David, you showed me that being strong doesn't mean facing everything alone. You are my safe place, my courage, my heart. I promise to love you through every storm and under every blue sky." I now pronounce you husband and wife, the priest said. You may kiss the bride. The kiss was gentle, full of promises and love. The church erupted into applause, and Maya heard military aircraft passing overhead, a surprise her father had arranged. At the reception, held in a hospital garden where David worked, the two families blended together with surprising ease. Mrs. Chun and Colonel Rodriguez even danced together, competing good-naturedly over who had organized their respective half of the event better. How do you feel, Mrs. Chun? David asked during their first dance. Like I'm flying, she said, but this time with my feet on the ground. And how do you feel about being married to a poor doctor? Maya laughed. I'll take a poor doctor who saves lives over a billionaire who doesn't know who he is, any day. David spun her across the makeshift dance floor. Maya Chun, I love you. David Chun, I love you too. When the party began to wind down, Maya and David found themselves alone in the small hospital garden. The sky full of stars, the city of Boston sparkling around them. No regrets? David asked. Not one, Maya replied. And you? Just one. Maya looked at him, concerned. What is it? David grinned playfully. That it took me so long to walk into a medical office and meet you. Maya laughed and kissed him under the stars. Well, Dr. Chun, now you have the rest of your life to make up for lost time. That's exactly what I plan to do, Captain Chun. And as they kissed, surrounded by the love of their families and the promise of every tomorrow still to come, Maya knew she had found her most important mission, to love and be loved by David Chun, the man who had changed her life forever.